Chiefs have selected George Karlaftis. Big George! There we go!
I am so beyond excited that Josh Simmons getting a crack at left tackle.
It's really hard to win the AFC Championship.
Is it?
Welcome into a live edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank. Member FDIC, our amazing partners in Possible here at KC Sports Network. It is Kent Swanson, it is Craig Stout, and Maddie Lane here with you on a Wednesday. What a great day it is. Maddie Lane, how are we feeling?
Listen, we are inching ever closer to guys running around on a football field in tights. I've never been more excited. It's one of the best times of the year. We are very slowly creeping up on the pinnacle of the football calendar, the NFL Combine. So yeah, I mean, needless to say, we're pretty stoked for that here at KCSN. We are all ready for that, and gonna have some boots on the ground. As Tucker's getting back out there yet again. So yeah, it's a good time. And the Chiefs the Chiefs been doing us a lot of favors this week and giving us a lot of news to talk about. And it's always fun when you have news to talk about when it comes to your favorite NFL team, Craig.
Is it always? All of it?
We'll get to that. Hi, Maddie. Thanks for asking me how I'm doing. I'm doing great, buddy. I appreciate that. No, I too am excited about the Combine. I know that a lot of people call it the Underwear Olympics and aren't jazzed about all of that. I am excited because I get to do CBAT after the Combine, and I get to kind of get a sneak peek into some historical outliers that traditionally turn out to be very good football players for a long time in their career. And so I'm looking forward to getting more data on that as somebody who's a little further removed from the draft process than I have been in prior years. This is really going to be kind of a big kickstart for me. I'm familiar with guys just watching casually, but I haven't deep dove into anybody yet. And this is going to kind of be the impetus to get me moving on that. So very much looking forward to joining you gentlemen, certainly not in your wealth of knowledge, but on this journey towards the draft with you.
Craig's word of the day is impetus.
Spell it.
I can spell it. IMP.
So if you know it, then why?
I was seeing if Craig was trying to spell it.
This is clearly for you. Craig knew it was for you as well. I just want to throw that out there.
Okay. Well, I spelled
did too.
it. I got it right.
Yes.
I'm proud of myself. Thank you very much. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us today.
Good job, Kent.
It's been a very big week for us here at KC Sports Network. The KCSN Draft Guide released yesterday. Or as far as the pre-orders for it, we are so excited to be giving
you guys got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, yeah. We're ahead of schedule this year with the book production. Actually, I was really excited to see that. That was nice. But pre-orders began yesterday, so we kind of launched the 8th edition of our book yesterday. And it's always kind of an exciting time for us. It's also a little scary, just, because, you put something out there and then people actually care enough to read it. We really appreciate all the support of it. I think people are really excited about, the Chiefs having the 10th pick in the draft. So, yeah, that launched, the pre-orders launched yesterday. It's $225 plus write-ups on prospects and how they fit the Chiefs. It's all catered and tailored to your favorite football team. All the content is just kind of built around your favorite football team. So if you want to support all of us here at KC Sports Network and support that book, the link is in the description of the show. If you want to learn a little bit more about it, we would appreciate your support. And thank you to everyone that has already supported. Really great launch this year. It's the best launch we've had in a couple years, and that was really cool to see.
Cool.
Probably has a little bit to do with the whole Chiefs having the 10th pick thing, but that could just be me. But really appreciate all of the support early on. It means a lot. It's always kind of scary to launch something like this. But let's get in the show. Let's talk about some stuff here. There's been some news today, and we'll start with Patrick Mahomes.
Whoa. Just because just because the Chiefs made a defensive coaching staff hire doesn't mean you get to cut out Craig's entire segment. Okay. Just because the Chiefs are doing something on the defensive side of the ball doesn't mean you get to just completely take Craig out of the show.
Did I miss a memo, or did we say that 7 minutes of Craig was not happening today?
Way to play along, Kent.
We did say that. Craig. I couldn't let Kent just hang out there.
I wanted to let him sit there for a minute. I just want to say the Chiefs also, hired a new defensive backs coach, Andre Curtis, and I thought it was perfect that Kent wanted to cut Craig's 7-minute segment the day that they hire a new defensive coaching staff member. That was all.
Good one, Maddie.
It was going to be great, but
I've been trying to cut this segment since the first week I did it. You guys are just listening to me now.
That's not happening. It's gonna come back.
It's a regular season segment.
I'm really not sure it should be, because I love the character Craig gets into a little bit, just a little more sultry. The music playing, like it's a fun segment. I think we should have found a way to stretch it, but that's okay. Can I continue the show now, Maddie? Is that okay?
Yeah, okay, yeah. We can now go to the rundown.
Okay, cool, sweet. Patrick Mahomes restructured his contract
on Andre Curtis.
Craig, what are you? Fine, Tucker, hit the music, please. Please. No, we're doing it. Tucker, I need the music. I'm serious. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the segment that sweeping the nation, and it swept it so much that we decided to bring it back last second, even though it's not a regular season week. 7 minutes with Craig Stout on the Chiefs' new assistant defensive backs coach.
He's not an assistant.
All right.
Yep. Thanks for that wonderfully peaceful intro, Kent. I really appreciate the energy you brought to that. Yeah, Andre Curtis, good football coach, Cowboys defensive passing game coordinator last year, played with Spags and under Dave Merritt. I know a lot of people are trying to read into the Dave Merritt thing a little bit more, but when he was with the Giants, he was the defensive quality control coach under Dave Merritt there in 2006 to 2008. So they got plenty of history working together. Went to the Rams with Steve Spagnuolo as the DBs and safeties coach over there. So a lot of familiarity. This more feels like, hey, let's get another coach that we like, that's available in the building here, that already has a good working relationship with the guy that we love in Dave Merritt. And let's see if we can add a little bit more there. Dave Merritt, not going anywhere, but another guy that's kind of in the house here that they can use to build up and maybe turn into a guy that becomes a bigger part of the defense moving forward. That was about 2.5 minutes with Craig.
Yeah, I think it's also worth noting that Curtis spent time with Spags at 3 different stops with the Giants, with the Rams when they were in St. Louis, and then the New Orleans Saints. So yeah, I just want to. It's a good hire. Yeah. There we go. There you go, Kent. We can move on.
That was 2.5 minutes with Craig Stout.
Good development of the Chicago Bears DBs while he was there. Jalen Johnson got himself paid.
Yeah.
Tyler Gordon when healthy, he's been a very good slot corner. So like people are gonna, I think, immediately go to the Cowboys and be like, look at this train wreck, but like, look at the train wreck. I don't think that you can put that on the defensive pass game coordinator, right? But yeah, just look at some of the development he's had over the years with the Seahawks and then with the Bears before that. And like, yeah, it seems like a very, very good, solid hire for a position that was just open.
Agreed. Patrick Mahomes' cap number is no longer $78.2 million in 2026. The Chiefs pull one of the levers that was presumed that they would pull as they look to get back under the cap for 2026. They have restructured Patrick Mahomes' contract in full. All dollars available to them to restructure. They have done so, saving themselves just under $42 million in cap space. The cap figure goes from $78.2 million all the way down to $34.65 million. The restructure allows that bonus to convert into a signing bonus, which they can now spread over the course of multiple years and reduce the cap hit for the Chiefs in 2026. not overly surprising news here. The first kind of move that I think maybe a small surprise that the Chiefs went with the full 40, near $42 million. But yeah, that's the first domino falls in the Chiefs offseason, Craig.
Yeah, no, like you said, an expected move there. I like that they went ahead and they did the entire amount that they could restructure there. Hey, thanks, Clark. That's a big check that you had to write today as a part of that. I mean, that is a massive one that he had to write. But it clearly kind of shows that it's not fully going to be about, well, they've got to cut this guy and cut this guy and cut this guy. It doesn't absolve them from doing any of those moves, but it kind of shows Patrick's bought in. He's completely on board with this. He's obviously getting his money here. Sounds like they're going to be maybe reviewing this contract in the next couple of years and whether or not they want to keep doing this year-to-year restructure or do a long-term thing. But it allows them to be a little bit more flexible with some of their moves. Maybe a George Karlaftis restructure, maybe a Creed Humphrey extension, maybe some of these other moves that seem like no-brainer moves for younger guys in there. And then maybe you don't have to go to the well of cutting Jawan Taylor or cutting Mike Dana or cutting Drew Tranquil, although they're still all very much on the table. That gives them some flexibility when it comes to free agency. The fact that this move is happening when it is tells me that they've got some things lined up. This is typically one of those moves that the Chiefs would do a lot closer to the compliance deadline. You would see that maybe like the day before they're just, going to flip the switch and go. It feels like they're flipping the switch and then they are laying out the other, 6 or 7 options that they have here, going to people and saying, hey, here's what we're prepared to do with you, your contract and things like that. Now we have this flexibility. Now we're not locked into this. So it definitely feels like the first domino of a few as a part of free agency. And the fact that they took such a big jump down with this, they converted so much of it to signing bonus, tells me that they're going to play a little bit more with some of their guys that are currently under contract.
Yeah, I think the act of restructuring like Mahomes' contract, even doing the max amount that they could, isn't overly surprising. The amount they were going to do, maybe you could have fudged that around, but like we all knew this was coming at some point in this year. The most interesting part is the timing, right? Like this is the Chiefs like to wait until the last second to do all these types of moves almost all the time. The fact that we are getting this incredibly early in the process, I do think speaks to something. I don't know what that is. The happy part of my soul wants to think they want to know that they're going to have a little bit more space going into the combine. So when you start going through all of these not even meetings, but like you're seeing all these different agents and all, everything like that, and everyone's starting to chit chat a little bit, you can be like, hey, look, we do actually have money. We're not waiting to clear up space and stuff like that. We're going to be completely compliant by the time the league year starts. And we will also have money because there's going to be plenty of other moves they make from here on out. So just the fact that they're jumping on it early makes me think that they are kind of trying to get to business relatively fast. They want to be ready for this like week and a half long negotiation period going on in Indianapolis. They want to be ready for all this stuff. Obviously not any kind of tampering going on at all in Indianapolis. Nobody is talking about any other free agents that they might sign or trade for or who may be cut. Nope. The Chiefs just want to be prepared so they cannot talk about those things as they go to Indianapolis. But yeah, I think it's just the fact that it's happening early at least leads me to think that they anticipate not doing maybe a ton of spending, but doing more spending than what their cap situation said as of 24 hours ago.
I hope that's true. I think it is at least a little bit of note that the Chiefs did do the full amount. And I'm not saying that I think they had to do a big chunk of it. There's been years in the past where they've only taken small pulls from the bank of Mahomes. There's been more modest restructures in history over the last few years where it's been more like $12, $15 million instead of like the full amount that they have available to them. So, I think it is at least of note that they did use the full Monty here. That's $44 million in cash that Clark Hunt just doled out there too. I kind of wonder if this is going to be a big cash year for the Chiefs. Them doing this with Mahomes was like a great start. The Chiefs are still a little bit under $11.5 million. under the cap or over the cap still. So they still got a lot of work to do, and we know like Jawan Taylor gets them cap compliant if they move on from him. That puts them at least cap compliant. And then any moves from there are moves to kind of free up and better the 2026 team. And more restructures. I think the thing is more restructures, more extensions do mean more cash handed out to players already on the roster, right? So, I think there's a few levers they can pull for some releases that would make some sense. Jawan Taylor, Mike Dana, those two moves alone, they make those two moves at this point. That now puts the Chiefs at $17.5 million in cap space. Any moves after that, obviously, could, a restructure of Creed or an extension of Creed or Karlaftis, any of those moves could help, support the cap space in 2026. Then it's about how much cash they're willing to spend in free agency, and I think that's the big question is how much cap space do they really create for themselves? I think that's the big one for me is, and how they use it too, because, $25-30 million in cap space, if half of it's tied into Travis Kelce, and it may not be that much, but work with me. If a giant chunk has to go towards a 1-year deal of true cap space, you've reduced your flexibility for the rest of your roster. I feel like, if the Chiefs want to stay under the cap and fill out the 6, 7, 8 holes that they have on this team, there's going to have to be some multi-year deals in there so that they can spread the cap space around a little bit, that they can be a little bit more flexible with that, which that means more cash goes out. So I think this is I'm quite interested to see the Chiefs offseason approach, and I think handing Patrick Mahomes every dime of cash in that restructure was a really good start for that.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I mean, it doesn't absolve, like I said, it doesn't absolve them of any of these other moves. They can clear a ton of space now by making all of these moves, by cutting Jawan, by moving some of this stuff around in a bigger way. You can very easily get to the point like we've been talking about throughout the season here, or throughout the offseason. It's one of those, well, the Chiefs don't really have any money. How are they going to go out and fill a defensive end? How are they going to go out and maybe try and add a running back? Does that make the most sense with all the money that they don't have and all of that? You can do a lot of these cuts that we've been talking about throughout it. We just weren't sure how deep they were going to go into the bank of Mahomes. Now seeing how deep they were willing to go into that, it really kind of raises the question, okay, so if you move on from Dana, Tranquil, Jawan Taylor right now, the Chiefs would be about $23.5 million in the plus under the cap. I mean, that's a sizable chunk of money that they can use on several players. So these moves that we've been talking about, that we've kind of mentally all prepared ourselves for them to move on from without any other restructures or anything, would clear plenty of space to go out and sign some guys to go and add to this roster and try and get better. Now, they could certainly go even deeper if they wanted to try and address a defensive end or play hard in the wide receiver market, or, maybe all three of those things with a running back included. They can have that flexibility again with some of these multi-year deals if they need to, and still probably bring back Travis Kelce on a 1-year deal worth probably more than we're all going to be happy with at the time. But hey, legacy contract.
Well, and I will say real quick too, if you're willing to pay cash and you want to use a little bit of void years, that can help lower that number for Travis Kelce. So if they use void years really for one of the first times that they don't like to use void years, but cash and void years can kind of be their friend for a Travis Kelce deal. That's, I think, what the point is if the pocketbook opens up big time this year, I think they have some flexibility to make some moves and make this football team better.
Yeah, I mean, like Kelsey's just going to eat into. I know you can use void years. I don't know if their cap situation moving forward is great situated to have void years wrapped up in the future, right? Like, I don't know if that's the best avenue to go when they have a couple of their other bigger contracts. They're going to keep getting bigger as they go forward, but still, Kelsey's going to eat into the space they make. So, like, to Craig's point, like, yeah, they can clear a little over 20 million with some obvious expected cuts to make to the roster. I think they are going to have to get a little bit more creative though beyond just that, because Kelce again is going to, on a 1-year deal, most likely is going to eat heavily into that. So now that does open up options. Creed Humphrey, extend him. There's no reason not to extend Creed Humphrey. There's no real risk in throwing another year or two on his deal and pushing the money and spreading the money further out if he would be willing to. Obviously, George Karlaftis doesn't there's no reason for George Karlaftis to say no to a maximum restructure of his deal. And the only difference you make there is make him slightly less cuttable, less cuttable in 2028, but he's already going to have like $8 million in dead cap that year. So even a max restructure makes him completely uncuttable, but the Chiefs aren't going to eat $8 million in dead cap anyway. They don't operate that way. So you can get other money by extending some guys, restructuring some guys, and probably get enough to actually play around in free agency a little bit more. So my last kind of question here for you guys, what's the next cap clearing move made by the Chiefs? What's the very next one that's going to be announced publicly?
The Jawan Taylor cut.
I do think it. Yeah. Go ahead. Okay.
No, I think and it doesn't, I guess it doesn't have to be the first one, but I just feel like it's the most obvious one, right? Like we can talk about the order in which the next two moves happen. I think one's Dana, and one's Jawan Taylor, whatever order it is. I think the most likely one is that Jawan Taylor is moved on from here. And maybe like the Chiefs want to renegotiate a deal with Mike Dana because they love him so much. I don't think I'd do it. I think I just take the cap hit and wish him well. But I think Jawan's pretty clearly a guy that they should probably just, move on and save that giant chunk of cap space. So I think it's Jawan is the most likely one next, and I think Dana follows.
For sure, especially since Matt Derrick is out here saying, add the expected release of right tackle Jawan Taylor, and the Chiefs will be under the cap for the beginning of the new year. I mean, that's somebody that's at least in the press corps. He's at least in the room with them. That's one of those guys that if he says something and it's very far off base, Chiefs PR is probably reaching out to be like, hey, chill. Like he's probably not saying that unless he's got an idea. I'm not saying it's guaranteed or anything like that, but it's not so far off base to where, that would be up still if that was the case. So I do think Jawan Taylor's probably the next move.
I'm going to lean towards it being Mike Dana. And the only reasoning for that is somebody brought up a great point for 21 questions that I did this last week with Nate Taylor. And I'm sorry, I forgot exactly who asked the question, but hey, why not dangle Jawan Taylor out there in the trade market? Because he is under contract for only $20 million. So a team that's going to be taking him on, or I actually think it's a little bit less for a team taking him on his base salary. If somebody needed right tackle play right away, and they did in fact have the cap space to do it, you could get a lot worse right tackle play for that much money. The Chiefs might have worse right tackle play for a bigger cap hit this upcoming year after cutting Jawan Taylor, right? And I don't say that as a knock. I just mean that that's not a terrible price for a right tackle if you want to lob out a day 3 pick to get him, and then you probably would work on an extension from there. So I'm going to say Mike Dana because I do think that there is a little bit of potential juice that you could wait out for Jawan Taylor to get closer to the actual start of the league here. I
did see. Oh, Jackie Moon. One more quick comment. This is about Mahomes restructure. Next year, Mahomes cap hit is now $85 million. Maybe another structure, and they don't feel the need to. So next year, Mahomes will not be playing on an $85 million cap hit. I would anticipate that's a good timing to restructure the deal. Yeah, sure, you could restructure it, but also it's a great opportunity to renegotiate the deal entirely. And I think that's where it probably makes the most sense because let's say in 2027 he's got his prorated bonuses are sitting at $32 million it's about, call it $32 million, maybe add another $7 million in non-prorated bonuses, but most likely it's looking at $32 million $45 million base salary, 32 million prorated bonuses that you can't get away from. That prorated bonus has to stay. You can't get rid of that. So even if the Chiefs come up with a new deal, that prorated bonus still has to stick. Now, the non-prorated bonus and the base salary can be renegotiated with a new deal. So you could lower his cap hit in year 1 of his new contract for 2027 so that the cap hit is sitting somewhere in the 40s, 45. It's a base salary of $13 million in the prorated bonus from this season or whatever you want to call it. They can go and do that, and now the cap hit's a lot more manageable in 2027, and he's on a new deal anyway. So I think that's probably what I would guess is 2027 is like a natural jumping off point for the Chiefs to renegotiate the contract and just do an entirely new an entirely new contract for Patrick Mahomes. We got plenty other news. We got some wide receiver free agent previews, and we will do a mock draft roundup. We're going to take a break, though. We'll be back right after this.
Heather Luce, broker owner, KC Local Homes, and Emprise Bank has been a great partner for us. They're our partner in Possible. Debbie and I hit it off immediately, and she was one of the first bankers that I would say sat down with me and actually genuinely cared about my story and where I was coming from and what I was trying to do, not just what kind of loan do you need, how much equity do you have, and she really kind of laid out my options for me and just made the process make sense, and I felt comfortable with it. Start to talk about it and think about it, a building popped up that I wanted, that I could afford, and it was in a great area. And so they really guided me through the SBA. I used the SBA loan to acquire it and really guided me through that process and made it happen. I think that we talk about that a lot, where we wouldn't have a business. We wouldn't have what we have here if we didn't have the clientele that we do. I've always functioned out of a people over profits mentality. The houses sell themselves, right? I'm here to help people and facilitate the transaction for them.
More pieces of news hitting today on Wednesday. This one surrounding Rashee Rice and his offseason. Obviously, we've addressed some of the allegations out there on Instagram by his ex-girlfriend, but now more has come out. The Chiefs wide receiver, Rashee Rice, is now the subject of a lawsuit that was filed in Dallas this week by that ex-girlfriend, alleging domestic violence from December 23rd to July of 2025. So there is a civil suit that is now out there for Rashee Rice. More news, right? I think, I don't want to get into some of the details alleged. That's not really what I don't want to spend a ton of time talking about that. Obviously, some of the allegations are horrifying and disgusting. And if true, I hope he never plays it down of football again for my favorite football team. But that's not the conversation we'll probably have today. It'll be more surrounding the football side of things. And I know there's really no great way to transition through all this, right? I mean, I despise having to deal and having to have conversations with these kind of things. But more importantly, I hope that Rashee's ex-girlfriend is okay, if that is true. And I hope she lives a long, happy, healthy life, and I hope her family lives a long, happy, healthy life if that is true, and is able to kind of overcome that. Beyond the allegations, it does affect the football team that we cover. A lot of things keep piling up with Rashee Rice over the last couple of years. This stems from the conversations that we've already had, this off season already with him. But man, it's tough to trust Rashee Rice right now with everything going on. Craig or Maddie.
Right as Maddie was going to talk. Yes, absolutely. I feel very confident in saying that Rashee Rice is not going to get extended a second contract by the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a headache. They already don't like headaches, and I know that there are people from other teams that may or may not be listening to this that will chuckle at that, because the Chiefs routinely put themselves in this position, but they don't want this kind of headache on their team. And frankly, it's every offseason right now with him. There's something new on this front. They are going to make decisions this offseason that are going to be around what is life without Rashee Rice like. That's just the long and the short about it, because they're not going to let themselves get into a position where it's Xavier Worthy and hope after that. That's not going to happen. They have not acted that way in several years. Now, injuries have made it that way a couple of times, but they have not gone into years saying, okay, well, these guys are our only hope for all of this. I think you are going to see a wide receiver move or two. They already needed a wide receiver, but a wide receiver move or two to insulate themselves against another Rashee Rice incident. I want to be clear here. This is a civil lawsuit. There is no criminal proceeding that will come of this specific lawsuit. There could be some that shake out depending on findings, you will see, but this is a civil lawsuit. That does not mean that the NFL is not going to look at this and go, dude, get your shit together and suspend them anyway if there are findings here. Obviously, that the NFL is not going to be requiring a criminal lawsuit to do something about this. The Chiefs know that. The Chiefs understand that. The Chiefs know this guy. He's in their locker room. They know how far they can trust him right now. I think they're going to make multiple moves at wide receiver because this is not going away, and it doesn't go away, and it continues to come back every single offseason. Just doesn't seem like a person that the Chiefs right now can trust to be in their organization and play for their football team.
Yeah, I mean, I want to steer clear of a lot of the direct issues that are happening off field. Like, they're obviously, if they are what has been accused, are absolutely terrible. My point is more of like, we stack that on top of all of the other smoke that has happened off field. And we talked about this earlier this offseason. I thought before, like, even going into this, it was already going to be a big year for him. And then just the most recent things that have happened now, and then like now with this civil case coming through, there's just too much there. You can't trust him going forward. There just can't be trust. You're going to pay this guy a lot of money to constantly be on the field, to be available, and to be giving you his best. And like, I don't mean to say that his play on the field has dropped because of anything that's happened off the field. Although, there was a suspension involved in there. So that obviously his actions off the field took him away then. But like, it's just, I don't know how you give this guy money the way that he has been acting and moving since he has been in the NFL. And you say, that's a guy that we are going to rely on. And then, so we spin this forward now, right? I really want to focus it like moving forward. We already thought the Chiefs needed a wide receiver. That was already a big deal to them. Now you're looking at not having Rashee Rice. You'll probably still have him this year. Let's call a spade a spade. The Chiefs will probably be just fine playing him. They probably won't take the high road in terms of playing him this year unless the NFL steps in. Okay. But after this year, you're going to need someone to eat volume. I don't care. Even if Xavier Worthy becomes a hit, he's not a volume receiver at the NFL level. You're going to be losing Travis Kelce, assuming he comes back for this season, and probably Rashee Rice. Again, we're right now probably assuming you don't pay him long-term. You need someone that's worth getting volume. You need somebody to funnel volume through. The Chiefs, we can talk about X receivers, fast receivers, any type of receiver you want. The Chiefs need someone for volume. The Chiefs need somebody they can go into next year saying, hey, I can give you 120 targets. That's not Tyquan Thornton, even though it'd be awesome if he came back. That's not Xavier Worthy. That's not Noah Gray, even if he takes a jump forward. They need someone. It's not Jalen Royals, even if he takes a step forward as a second-year player, right? They need someone that they can feel comfortable funneling targets to, because Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice are guys that you can funnel 100-plus targets through. Like, that's their role in this offense. The Chiefs need somebody they can do that to. That's not Juju Smith-Schuster at this point with no knees, right? They need somebody on this roster they can do that. So I don't care what role, quote unquote, this receiver plays. They just need somebody that can come in and be worthy of getting targets at very least, because you want to get somebody in this offensive scheme for a year before they are the guy, before they have to be the guy. We want to give them that runway. So like, receiver went from a top tier need to like, it might be the biggest need now if you're thinking beyond just 2026, because again, they need somebody by next year to be ready for 100-plus targets.
Do you just want to jump into the free agency conversation now?
Yeah, because, I mean, it's a perfect way to go into it.
I think so too, because like, as you're talking through that, I'm looking at the free agency list that's out there, and I'm just looking and going, who do I think could be a volume candidate in free agency? And like, I'm looking here, and it's like, I think the top receiver is probably Alec Pierce out of the Indianapolis Colts. And I don't know if he's necessarily a high volume guy. I look at maybe a Romeo Doubs. He hasn't been a high volume guy in the past, and he profiles more of an outside guy. And I think when you think volume, you need somebody that's, you went outside, great, but you also want someone that's capable of operating in the middle of the field a little bit more consistently. So that's where I think the questions really lies with this free agency class. If you're talking about trying to set Patrick Mahomes up with a quality volume receiver in 2026 and beyond, or in hopes of him being in a good position to be that guy in 2027. Craig, I'm having a hard time finding somebody that makes sense in free agency for them to go out and fill that void that could be needed as soon as 2027.
Yeah, and a lot of the guys that you would look at and maybe you'd be like, well, I don't know, maybe we could throw a ton of targets his way are older. I mean, Christian Kirk is going to be a free agent. Do we think that 29-year-old Christian Kirk coming off of that Houston team where he was fine, just fine. He's not the Jacksonville Christian Kirk after he got paid. You know, he's not that guy. You're not going to funnel that many targets through him. Are you going to target Mike Evans? Are you going to throw him 120 balls at, 32, 33 years old? I mean, it's a guy that the Chiefs were interested in before, but is that really the path to success? Fills an X role, but you kind of feel like you need another guy that can be a little more reliable, especially looking forward when the Chiefs may not have wide receivers on their roster. And then, the other guy who's training in Kansas City right now, Tyreek Hill, who also has civil lawsuits, by the way, Tyreek Hill that, hasn't finished getting surgeries yet. And I know that a lot of people are like, oh, he's coming back to Kansas City. Man, we don't know what he's going to be at this point. He's a guy that's very predicated on his explosion and athleticism. And the GPS numbers are out there, guys. They've been declining for the past couple of years already on Tyreek Hill before he shredded everything in one leg. The options are not there. I don't see very many of these guys and think, boy, the Chiefs are really going to go hard after that guy. And now all of a sudden they're going to have a true guy that they can throw 100 passes to. That's what they tried to do with Hollywood Brown, and it did not work whatsoever. So I don't see a guy in free agency. I see a lot of pieces that can complement that guy, but not the guy.
So the one guy, so Mike Evans theoretically has been that guy for a different style of offense. But if we're going to add him to the list, is he that guy next year though? Is he that guy when they need him in 2027? That is what I'm not believing.
Right.
The one person, and it's not like he's a spring chicken. He's almost 29 years old. He will be this year. But Juwan Jennings, coming out of San Francisco, talk about a shallow to intermediate threat that will work over the middle of the field. That's a dog, borderline dick. If you listen to the opponents that go up against him, he is a guy that I could see bringing in that could give you very Juju Smith-Schuster 2022 type of vibes. Right. So like if the Chiefs were adamant that they needed that guy right now this year and they wanted to maybe spend a little bit extra for Jennings, he is the one free agent wide receiver that I think you could bring in and say, hey, this is going to be a volume type guy for us. That said, listening to you guys talk about it and then looking at this list here, it feels like the free agency, wide receiver group is probably better to be looked at as complementary pieces. And you use the draft to find someone that you are going to want to be your volume target guy. It looks to be a little bit more likely that you are going to get a volume receiver out of the draft than you are any free agency period, but especially this one where it's a lot more Alec Pierce's, Romeo Dobbs, Rashid Shaheed's, these guys that are vertical big play receivers, but you want to be hitting them, getting them the ball 70, 80 times so that they can average 20 yards per catch, not necessarily trying to force feed them 100 plus targets with an average depth of target right around 9 or 10 yards. That's not where their game is. That's not where they are at their best. So I think free agency is probably better suited to finding a more of a role player unless, like I said, unless the Chiefs get something drastic right now this year with Rashee Rice, then you could sell me on paying Jennings what I think is going to be a pretty competitive salary to be a target eater. Outside that, maybe you just steer clear of the high-priced wide receivers in free agency.
Which is a little bit, the Chiefs may not have the luxury of getting someone's feet wet in 2026. They really just might not have the luxury of that this year. They don't really have the luxury of anything right now because regardless of, yes, hey, cash spending and cap space, yes, it's going to be creative and they're going to have to spend some cash and they're probably going to have to sign. I would imagine if they want to have every single hole that they have on this team filled in some capacity before the NFL draft, which is what Brett Veach wants to accomplish every single year. If they want to do that, I think there's at least 2 multi-year contracts that have to get signed this offseason at safety, running back, wide receiver, tight end, defensive end, defensive tackle, linebacker, like all these positions that we're just reeling off here. If you want to roll out the ball in week 1 with a ready-made roster before the draft hits, you're probably looking at 2 multi-year deals of that group to fit everything in there, and then kind of getting a little skimming on some other spots there. I was thinking about this a little bit because, like, you're right. I think it's maybe it's Tyquan Thornton, and like we're not excited about the outlook of the 2027 receiver room, and a top 100 receiver is all but a certainty. Yeah, we can talk about round 1 period in a minute. Or
that better be a top 40 wide receiver.
Yeah, I would say probably top 40. I left the door open a little bit there. I would agree. And I think that's a conversation that needs to be had, maybe not today, but another day. I'm gonna throw a little curveball out here because like it's still the spirit of free agency. But what if the Chiefs were to look? I'll throw some names out here that could potentially be volume guys for the Chiefs in 2027. That they maybe they want to trade. Maybe the Chiefs look to trade for. And I know there's 2 teams to tango, and some of these are just they're gonna hang up the phone immediately. Drake London,
sure.
His contract comes up in 2027. I know.
I proposed him in a 21 questions 2 weeks ago.
I mean,
by the way.
New staff.
I would love it.
They don't have a draft pick, by the way, because they foolishly got rid of it all, and your team stinks out loud. So maybe
I don't think we can call another team foolish for their drafted players being ministers.
Another less likely, but Chris Olave, Jaden Reed in 2027, Josh Downs in 2027, Michael Pittman in 2027. I mean, I don't know. I look at some guys that like have some ability.
In the first half.
Yeah, I know the other ones are a little bit flimsier, but guys that can be and Downs and Reed when they've played, they've shown an ability to be productive, but there's been some injuries there with both of those guys. I'm just trying to find ways to fill that gap, and maybe you're more apt to like if Jaden Reed was in free agency right now, I'd be a lot more interested in signing him. If Josh Downs was in free agency in 2026, I'd be a lot more interested in signing him. Not necessarily top of the market, but like
sure.
Those are a couple guys I'd be excited to see the Chiefs maybe take a look at. So
the problem with wide receiver, like guys that are volume earners are good, right? You very rarely, especially in today's NFL, do you have bad receivers that get volume. That was the thing a decade ago when it was just, we have a non-fast receiver, we'll put him in the slot and he'll just go shake a linebacker a bunch of times. That can be a volume receiver. Now you don't have that. Even your slot receiver now, they're not just underneath guys, unless they're in Kansas City, but like they're 3-level threats, right? And there's a lot of times they're your number 1 wide receiver because they run real routes. They're going up against the freakiest of athletes sometimes on the opposing team. And so you don't have volume getting wide receivers hitting free agency anymore because that means they're a good player. Drake London's not going to hit free agency. Chris Olave probably doesn't hit free agency. And if he does, it's because the Saints are terrified of his concussions, right? Like those guys just won't hit free agency anymore. You might get a Josh Downs, maybe a Jaden Reed because of how the Packers operate. But like, I don't even know if neither one of those guys are the volume receivers for their team. They're both like not even the guy they want to funnel their most targets to. The Packers don't want to play Jaden Reed on half their formations. And the Colts would rather Michael Pittman be their slot receiver than Josh Downs. Right. So I get it. I get what you're going for, and I agree. But typically, you're not going to find that type of wide receiver available in free agency very often. Is I guess like the baseline in terms of what you're getting complimentary guys more so.
Yeah, that's why I'm with Kent on looking ahead a year for a trade candidate. I mentioned Drake London on 21 Questions solely because it's a brand new everything over there. And he's going to command $32, $33 million a year as a wide receiver. And they don't feel like they have a quarterback. Cool. They're going to have to go out. They're going to have to make moves quick in that organization. Oh, and on top of that, the one guy that makes that offense go in a big way is also a free agent at the same time as Drake London. Are they going to choose Bijan Robinson or Drake London? I can see this organization going with a guy that's a very marketable guy, partnering with another quarterback. Yes, I realize you're taking one of the quarterback's security blankets away in London here. But again, if you're not going to be paying him $33 million in 2027 and beyond, you're going to try and maximize your value there. Now, I'm not really condoning the Chiefs come off pick 9 or anything like that, but pick 40, sure. Let's have a conversation about Drake London. Now, I don't know if they go for that, but he is somebody that I've definitely paid attention to. Garrett Wilson, great name to add to the equation there as well. Yeah, those are both volume target guys, but would require a trade and a new contract when you did that. That's why it's one of those, you got to pay for guys like that. You got to be ready to go and pay for those guys. And for all the reasons that the Falcons might not want to pay him, the Chiefs probably might not want to pay a guy like that as well, that amount of money.
Well, the funny thing is with all that too is, okay, the Chiefs trade for Drake London and they give him a giant extension. What are the dominoes that fall from that? Does that mean Trent McDuffie no longer is getting the extension in Kansas City? You know, like I think
it probably means you're moving on from Chris Jones after this year. I mean, there's a lot of things like that. Yeah.
This offseason is really exciting. I think in a it's exciting, maybe not always like fun when you start looking at all of the ways that this thing and all the permutations of this offseason that can exist. It's just so many little pieces to this puzzle that they've got to figure out, and then the domino effects and the cause effect of all of them. I'm really excited to see how this team approaches it. And I think like getting the full reveal of it, but like my brain hurts thinking about all the chain reactions of how this offseason could go. And, you know, I think the combine will be pretty telling. You start hearing some rumors. You start seeing, are any of the big Chiefs names floating out there? Are we gonna start getting news of the Chiefs? You know, like those kind of things. Then you go, oh, okay, that might start narrowing down how they're gonna try to approach this thing. What the theme of the offseason is? Is it a blow up? Is it a reset? What is this actually gonna be like in 2026? Are they playing the long game a little bit? The last time they played the long game and went really rookie heavy, they messed around and won the Super Bowl in 2022 with all that extra draft ammunition. So it's gone okay for them in the past. But I really can't wait to see how this team approaches the offseason and the decisions and the choices that they make with this roster. Before we get out of here, it's mock draft roundup time. This is like I'm loving this segment. It's just so fun to just cycle through some of the names. You know, sometimes it's gonna be, you know, new ones. Sometimes it's gonna be the same old. But we'll start. We got a couple. We got one from Daniel Jeremiah. We got one from Pro Football Focus. We'll start with Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft. He has the Chiefs selecting Jeremiah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame. Craig, what were your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are I'm enjoying that Jeremiah Love is still available to the Kansas City Chiefs at pick 9 before the combine, before everybody talks to everybody. No, it's really fun right now to picture him in this offense and how good he could be. I know we've talked about him plenty here, but yeah, I know that it seems like a luxury pick, but a luxury pick that if, as we just got done talking about, the Chiefs go and play in the free agent wide receiver market, I become extremely okay with. Very, very accepting of Jeremiah Love in this offense at that.
So in this mock draft, the Chiefs passed on Caleb Downs, any cornerback, Jordan Tyson, Sonny Styles. Those are probably your big names that they passed on to Keldrick Falk to take Jeremiah Love. Would you take any of those players over Jeremiah Love in that scenario?
You said who it was? Downs. It was Sonny Styles,
Jordan Tyson, any cornerback, and Keldrick Falk.
As we sit here right now in mid-February, I'm probably taking Jordan Tyson over Jeremiah Love right now.
Okay. That's fair.
I think if you want me to elaborate, you're pausing like you need me to elaborate a little bit more. I think wide
I didn't
receivers
know how much you
scary.
want to talk about it.
Well, I think wide receivers scary for all the reasons that we talked about for basically the majority of this episode. And when you're looking at someone that needs some volume targets, like I think Jordan Tyson is a guy that has the ability to provide that volume target. I think the thing I want to caution people, and not caution, that's not the right word. I have my reservations about if the Chiefs going down this route, we look at the free agent results, we say, I don't really like this group all that much. I don't know if there's someone that can be the guy or a big contributor in 2027, just a nice role player. If that guy is in there on the roster or whatever, I don't know if the Chiefs will lock themselves into receiver at 9. And I think it's worth acknowledging. Like I think receiver is one of the betting favorites to be the Chiefs' top pick. I know I'm doing it right now by locking Jordan Tyson in over Jeremiah Love, and Jeremiah Love's like my favorite player in this class. I think how I feel today with the Rashee Rice news and all that stuff, you probably just need to raise that receiver floor pretty significantly for this year and next, and have some talent in that room. So like I think that's the logic I'm operating with, even though like I think Jeremiah Love is a higher rated player for me.
So like I think Jeremiah Love's a super safe but still fun. Like I want to be very clear. This isn't like a boring pick. I think it's just a super safe. He makes a ton of sense. He steps in right away and plays a big role. I was just curious if you would go a different route. We get a little bit of time here, so like I'm not today. We can talk about more about Jordan Tyson, but like my quick pitch is I just don't know. I think he's very much a volume earning wide receiver. He always has been when he's healthy in college. That has been his thing. You were going to throw him a ton of passes. How does that work in Kansas City and a West Coast offense where everything is short and after the catch and finding space in zone? Those are the things that I don't think he does as well. Like his zone beating is when he can see the zone, not settling into voids that are all around him. Mm-hmm. And his thing is definitely not after the catch, is he kind of has to take a second to pause, turn, look at where everybody is, and then try to go. And that's how come his yak production is incredibly poor compared to some other top wide receivers. So like, great prospect. I do think there's a little bit of a sticky fit. It's not quite as a perfect fit to his play style with the Chiefs. I would probably lean Love over him for those different reasons. But this brings me to my next question here. Daniel Jeremiah also did he has a podcast, Move the Sticks, with Bucky Brooks. And the day before this mock draft came out, they did a back and forth mock draft where Jeremiah Love and Mekhi Lemon, those two players were flipped. He had Jeremiah Love they had Jeremiah Love going to the Saints, which meant Mekhi Lemon was available. And then Mekhi Lemon ended up being the Chiefs pick. We can talk about that in a second, but I wanted to get Craig's take on this. He also mentioned in that article that he could see a team like the Cowboys trading pick 20 for Trent McDuffie so they could just get a great corner locked and loaded right away. How would you feel if that came true?
Pick 20 is more than I think that the Chiefs are going to get for Trent McDuffie. So that is a hard pick to turn down if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, especially if you want to play him in the slot. He doesn't want to play in the slot. He wants to have outside corner money. He wants to play outside corner. You're thinking, yeah, he's a good outside corner. He's a great slot, but we can't convince him to play. There's a lot of reasons why the Chiefs may not be interested in keeping him beyond his rookie contract. I think that it's probably a later pick than that. So I realize what that does to the corner room, a corner room that I'm already not in love with. And that's even before we talked about anything going on with Jalen Watson and whether or not he's going to get a big deal somewhere else. Without Trent McDuffie in the room, you are devoid of a lot of talent in that room. You are banking on Noel Williams being a dude. And he's fun. I like watching him. Pick 20, you better feel very comfortable about what you were able to add in free agency and what you are able to add at pick 20, whether that be in the front seven to where your secondary is not so much of a problem if it is a liability, or a corner that fits your scheme maybe better than it fits the Cowboys scheme, because otherwise the Cowboys would just stay there and pick him. I really struggle with making your cornerback room that weak, but pick 20 is hard for me to pass up. So I'm probably accepting of it, even though draft night, I'm going to be bummed that the Chiefs cornerback room sucks. So yeah.
Can I throw a scenario at you just to see how you'll take it, Maddie? Can we go down this rabbit hole real quick?
Sure, I guess.
Okay. All right. They trade me.
How he asks you.
Well,
like you're gonna say no, and then we're gonna move on, and everybody's gonna be sitting here listening, going, I wonder what that was.
Should leave people on a cliffhanger. All right. They trade Trent McDuffie for pick 20. They re-sign Jalen Watson, so now you got Watson, Noel Fulton.
Uh-huh.
They draft Caleb Downs with the 9th pick.
Out.
And-
I'm already out.
Yeah.
And Keldrick Falk with the 20th. How do you feel?
Nah,
Just curious.
I don't like it.
I'm already out.
I'm trying to find the scenario where Maddie is okay with Caleb Downs.
I think
I don't
we're
know
gonna
if
keep
it
in trouble.
exists.
You're gonna keep me in trouble. I think y'all are too high on Caleb Downs. I don't think he's an otherworldly generational safety. He's not that kind of athlete. So he's got to be correct mentally all the time, which he's great at doing. But he doesn't have the wiggle room. He doesn't have the size that Kyle Hamilton has. He doesn't have the athleticism that Derwin James has. He doesn't have the wiggle room that the safeties that everyone's comparing him to have. He has to be perfect. He has to play like Eric Weddle all the time. And Eric Weddle is like fringe worthy of that kind of pick to me at the 9th overall pick. And more likely than not, he plays more like Harrison Smith, who's been a fantastic safety, always on the fringe of being a top 5 safety year in and year out. I'm not spending pick 9 on a safety that's fringe top 5. If I'm going that high, I need somebody that has wiggle room. I need an elite athlete or a freakish size guy, not a 5'11", 6 foot, 200-pound safety who just is smarter than everybody else. I think it's too narrow of a pathway to get to be a top 2 safety year over year at that position.
Any other thoughts, Craig?
Get people to yell at me.
No, I will be sad that Trent McDuffie's gone. I love cornerback play, and the Chiefs are actively making me try to hate their cornerbacks progressively year after year and trading away all of my favorite players. Steve Spagnuolo gets to creative with his coverage schemes. We go to something like that, and all of a sudden it gets real basic on the outside again, and it's not fun.
Well, they just need to quit finding them too. You know? I mean, they just keep finding them. It makes them feel a little bit more like they can just move on because they've done it at every single turn here with every single cornerback. One more mock draft before we get out of here. PFF has the Chiefs taking Mekhi Lemon at 9, the USC wide receiver, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the Toledo safety at pick 40, and USC edge Anthony Lucas, pick 74. Well, Maddie, let you lead things off.
Yeah. So I'm glad that we read this one off first. And now we get like the Mekhi Lemon stuff into 2 spots. And we've talked about him like a lot. We will continue to talk about him, but he's become my wide receiver 1. And I was thinking, even given the Rashee, like before this extra Rashee Rice stuff came out, I still thought Lemon made some sense. Now he makes the most sense. If you want to talk about a fit with the Chiefs, give me the guy that is going to eat targets. I don't care if he's playing 70% of his snaps out of the slot now. That doesn't matter after 2026, right? Like that's now a completely open position. And as much as I am against the heavy leaning and like reliance on the West Coast offense, you tell me one wide receiver in this draft class is going to thrive in a West Coast offense. Give me the guy that's the best with the ball in his hands after the catch, and the guy that's the best at getting open. That's Mekhi Lemon. So like, I think he's the perfect wide receiver for what the Chiefs do. I understand that there's going to be so many people mad that he's another smaller wide receiver. Hey, listen, the numbers coming in from scouts apparently leading into the year was 5'11", 194. Okay. I don't know what he's going to measure at the combine. We're about to find out. But if we're getting anywhere where we can round up to 5'11" and near 190, we don't have a tiny player. He's just a little undersized. But again, it doesn't matter because going forward, they will need someone to eat targets. You were losing a lot of targets over the middle of the field from 0 to 20 yards. I can point you to the best wide receiver over the middle, 0 to 20 yards in this draft class, and his name's Mekhi Lemon. The fit makes too much sense if he's available to me at pick 9, both this year but also long term.
Yeah, his game reminds me of Jackson Smith and Jigba. I've seen a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown comps, like guys that would just fit timing routes, get the ball in his hands, watch him break a tackle, watch him take more, take something to the house. break off a guy in man coverage. Like he's and can coexist with Rashee Rice. Like I think that those two guys can still coexist for a year. That's not something that's going to, then also, well, what are you going to do with all these guys? They both can work. And, downs where it's a man down. Hey, guess what? Now you got a man beater over here. Good zone downs. Now you got two guys that can beat zone really well. He just makes so much sense. Looking ahead there, Manuel McNeil Warren, very, very long player, big player, very physical. Really difficult to throw around in the middle of the field. I know he played a little bit of free safety. I wonder, we're going to find out what he runs, but I wonder how, much long speed he's got. But a guy that makes a lot of sense that, kind of tracks closer to some of the stuff that Steve Spagnuolo has done in the past. And I think that this would be a pick. If you were making this pick at pick 40, would be a guy that you would say, okay, well, we're going to move on from Jamari Conner. You'd save $3.5 million or something like that this year. We're going to get another guy that can play in a lot of the same areas. Yeah, he's going to struggle sometimes in coverage. He's not the best coverage guy, but is going to be able to kick down in the box, play as a box safety, be an enforcer, be able to blitz pretty well, be able to, kind of come up with a bunch of tackles, forces a ton of fumbles. So he's just kind of an impact player that I've really liked what I've gotten to see from him so far. I think he makes a ton of sense if they want to replace more of that box middle of the field safety role. I know they got a free safety role that they got to fill still, but man, this would be a really fun one to add to Spags' defense.
Well, and Emmanuel McNeil Warren, I mean, even right before the combine, he's picking up a lot of steam as far as, how some of the national media is mocking him. Was it Daniel Jeremiah, I think, that put hut at 13th? Was it Daniel Jeremiah that put him at 13th?
Yeah, it was very high. Daniel Jeremiah had 3 safeties in the first round?
Yeah.
That would be shocking to me. Oh.
I don't know what this draft
The Oregon kid's a first round draft pick? I mean, anyway, yeah.
He's supposed to test really well, and he didn't do it a ton at Oregon because they also had another good nickel. But Dylan Thieneman, the Oregon safety, apparently a lot of his coaches have said like he's an unbelievably good nickel. So he's like your nickel safety, and I think he's supposed to test really well.
So, I mean, I think those two were Emmanuel McNeil Warren and Thieneman were like 40, 30s, and now it's like teens. Like that's the kind of sizzle they're getting right now in February. So, and especially like I think a lot of people, like I think Craig, you made the comment, it's like a lot of people want to try to replicate the Seahawks and getting the super long athletic safety or the athletic Oregon safety. Like, hey, maybe it's some similarities there. They can try to mimic that a little bit. But I mean, yeah, if the Chiefs went lemon EMW is what we call them in the group chats a lot. I don't even really care what they do after that.
I love McNeil Warren. I just want to say I love McNeil Warren. I understand like there's some hesitations about his coverage, but it's not a physical limitation to me. I think he's at Toledo, right? And like I understand Toledo's put out some good defensive backs, but like his technique or his instincts, the way he sees things being a tick slow makes sense coming from a group of 5 team. So like I don't think he's got an athletic limitation in terms of playing as a deep safety. I have no qualms about him being able to play in a deep half. And you want to look for someone that can come in and do a Justin Reed type impersonation in the box or playing as a robber, being physical against tight ends. He's that guy in this class, right? Like, I think he's excellent at that. The way he's able to come downhill, he's the longer player. Like, he's 6'2", listed 200 pounds, but he's like really long limbed, but he doesn't have the typical hesitation, like the typical negatives that come with that as a movement player. He's not stiff, right? It doesn't take him a long time to change directions. He's pretty fluid the way he moves. So it makes him a really good tackler in space. Like, I think he's an excellent player. If he is there at 40 because he maybe doesn't run as fast as some of these other safeties, I think that's where you start to feel a little bit better about fudging positional value for that type of player at pick 40, not at pick 9. So yeah, he's just a guy that I definitely have my eyes on. And then Anthony Lucas, I just want to say, 6'5", 270 pounds with over 33-inch arms. Like, Spags is chilling. He's happy. He's got his edge setting, power rusher. Talking to Anthony Lucas, we did get to talk to him at the Shrine Bowl. He's got a very cerebral approach to his pass rush. He likes to base stuff out of his power, like the power that he has, and then reading the tackles, how they're engaging with his power. So you fully understand how he can come in and be a complementary rusher to Chris Jones or George Karlaftis. I know Chiefs fans aren't going to want to hear that, but we're also talking pick in the third round. Would I want to lean towards somebody with maybe a little more juice? Yeah, but I would fully understand that pick for the Chiefs in that spot.
The logic would make sense.
It would feel like another Ashton Gelati. Yeah, like it's just, hey, another
But
guy
long-
that's going to
but, like,
play on the
fits the
outside with good
mold.
size and length. Right,
Yeah.
right. But longer, it's going to play with power, not going to bend the edge. You're not going to have that sort of stuff. So it would be another just in the Spags archetype.
It's a mock draft I would sign up for, I think. It's a mock draft I'd sign up for if the Chiefs were to roll with that. I like that one. So sign me up. And we'll probably get some of these multi-round drafts going a little bit more when we do our mock draft roundups. That's fun. I always like, Mekhi Lemon and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren or Caleb Downs and Omar Cooper. We already know Maddie's answer, but those are the scenarios we can start playing with a little bit more. That one's not even difficult. But I
win
think
the lottery, or would you like an old McDonald's double cheeseburger? What the?
That's going to do it for this episode of the KC Laboratory. Thank you so much for listening, watching, supporting. We love you. We appreciate you. We're going to go to McDonald's.
Not a sponsor.
Insane question.